File Data Platform is the future of NAS. It is a cloud-native alternative to the typical old-school servers that many organizations still run today. Nasuni delivers serious savings with great performance. Migrating your existing data may have you thinking, how long will this take? Is my data secure? Will I lose my data? Will my users notice? Guess what? Hundreds of organizations have made the switch smoothly and efficiently, and you can too. Upgrading your NAS environment is your chance for a fresh start to align your IT strategy to business goals while giving you flexibility you've never had before. Our team of professionals has expertise across all environments. We work with you through each phase of your migration, from initial planning to deployment to the final cutover. Whether you are looking to migrate 20 terabytes or over a petabyte, Nasuni ensures that your data is migrated safely and on schedule. Each deployment is unique, and our team takes the time to understand your environment and your needs. After our architecture and planning workshop, we'll continue to meet with you regularly along the way to make sure your launch to the future with Nasuni is a success.
The fastest growing cybersecurity threat today is ransomware. Hackers know that over 80% of your data resides in file shares, and just one wrong click by an employee can open the door to some serious damage. Cyber criminals hope you'll pay their ransom rather than face massive downtime and productivity loss, or worse, a headline-grabbing leak of sensitive information. Ransomware is expected to attack a business, consumer, or device every 2 seconds by 2031. Nobody knows when the next ransomware attack will strike, and by the time you realize you've been hit, it may be too late to recover. So how can you be sure your critical business data is protected? Nasuni offers the world's best file data platform with cyber resilience against ransomware, delivering world-class protection, detection, and recovery. Nasuni protects your enterprise file data with continuous file versioning, so file changes are kept safe and secure forever as immutable objects in low-cost cloud storage. Nasuni also detects live ransomware attacks as they happen, whether it's a well-known attack or a new variant. Nasuni keeps you on high alert with notifications and emails, so you can quickly identify and quarantine the source of the attack and all impacted files. As a last line of defense, Nasuni's rapid ransomware recovery capabilities can recover millions of files across any number of locations in just seconds, with the convenience of a unified management console, whether you need just a handful of files or an entire volume. With an infinite number of recovery points, you can surgically restore all impacted files to just moments before the attack occurred without missing a beat. Stop relying on complex and costly file solutions that offer inflexible capacity, limited protection, and slow recovery. Make the switch to simplicity, scale, and savings.
It's an out-of-the-box solution that works.
It honestly saved me nights and weekends.
Being a Nasuni customer takes most of the burden from you.
Very impressed with the way we had zero downtime. We had no bumps, no screw-ups.
Nasuni aren't standing still. They're looking to the future.
Stupendous in its functionality.
You don't lose any sleep over knowing your data is protected.
Dealing with Nasuni, they care.
So it's rock solid.
Easy to deploy.
Nasuni was the best product to suit our needs.
The solution's just been invaluable.
It is one of the best decisions we ever made.
Hello, and welcome to Hybrid Cloud Storage, 3 Pillars to Transform Your Business. Today's webinar is sponsored by Nasuni and produced by Actual Tech Media. My name is Scott Becker. I'm from Actual Tech Media, and I'm excited to be your moderator for this special event. Now, before we get to today's great session, we have a few housekeeping items that will help you get the most out of this session. First off, we want this to be an informative event for you, so we encourage any questions in the questions box in your webinar control panel. Not only will we have team members responding to questions during the live event, but we'll also have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of the presentation where we'll discuss in greater detail some of the top questions that you ask. That Q&A panel is also the place to let us know about any technical issues that you might be experiencing. A browser refresh will fix most audio, video, or slide advancement issues, But if that doesn't work, just let us know in the Q&A and we'll provide further technical assistance. Now, second, in the handout section of your webinar control panel, you're going to find that we're offering several resources, and I'd especially like to call your attention to several items from Nasuni. There's a hybrid cloud storage ebook, there's a Nasuni solution brief, and there's a TGIF case study. Also, we're trying something new today. The top handout in your handouts is a Nasuni Zoom link. So that's a special room that's going to be live right after the event. It's an opportunity for you to talk with our presenters after the event, ask any follow-up questions, and get more information. And if you follow our presenters over to that Zoom link, there's a chance to win a $50 Visa gift card as an added bonus. Okay, and third, at the end of this webinar event, we will be awarding a $250 Amazon gift card to one lucky registrant. Of course, you must be in attendance during the live event to qualify for that prize. Official terms and conditions of today's prize drawing can be found in the handout section. Just scroll to the bottom and you'll find the prize terms and conditions link there. Now, finally, one of the best benefits of this event is the opportunity to ask a question of our expert presenters. So to help encourage your questions, we have a special additional prize for you. That's another Amazon gift card, this one for $50 for the best question. So after the event is over, we'll look at all the questions that came in, pick out the very best one, and contact that prize winner. So just to recap the prizes, $250 for one lucky attendee, $50 for a best question from Amazon from Actual Tech. And then if you head over to the Zoom link, the Zoom room afterwards, there's another opportunity for a $50 Visa gift card from Nasuni. All right, and with all that out of the way, let's get to today's great discussion. So it's my pleasure to introduce you to our presenters today from Nasuni. We have Lance Shaw, who's Director of Product Marketing, and Ben Phelan, who's a Solutions Architect. Lance, welcome.
Thank you so much, and everyone, thank you for joining us today.
And
I'm really
Ben,
glad
welcome.
You're here and looking.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Ben, welcome to you too. All right, well, Lance, I'm going to turn things over to you and head back up. I'll be back for Q&A.
Sounds good, Scott. Thank you so much. Hey, yeah, I just took the ball and started running there. Sorry about that. All right, folks. Hey, listen, thank you so much for joining us today. And we're going to be talking about hybrid cloud storage and what it means to you. And so our agenda is brief, and we are going to attempt to keep this whole entire session to about 25 minutes. So we're going to see how we do here. Your time is valuable, and so we want to make the most of it. We're going to talk about what is driving hybrid cloud storage, what motivates organizations to look into it and to make that move. And we're really going to talk about these three pillars, these three architectural fundamentals that are super important for you to consider as you look to move off of legacy or on-premises systems. Of course, we're going to talk about the Nasuni advantage and what makes us different and better. And we're going to spend some time. Ben's going to give us a thorough product demonstration to walk you through and actually show you the product in action in some of these key areas. As Scott mentioned, we're going to have a Zoom breakout room after this for secondary discussions and additional questions. So let's get moving. All right, so real quick, a little bit of an interesting slide here. I'm showing you not to go through all this because it might take 25 minutes by itself. But the key thing I want you to take away here is from the variety of organizations that are currently using hybrid cloud storage from Nasuni. And the interesting column is that to take a look at is the various NAS systems that have been replaced and the various file backup systems that have been replaced. Right. So as we're going to talk through this, you're going to see this theme where we're talking about the opportunity to consolidate and reduce your footprint and radically reduce the amount of spending you're doing for these systems. All right. So keep that in mind. I won't go through all this list exhaustively, but you can see that it's quite varied. So we're going to start out today with a little bit of a poll. So one of the common problems when we think about consolidation and what organizations need to do to reduce that, we often find that organizations have a large number of file data sharing solutions in use across organizations. So I'd like to ask you to go ahead and click on what your organization is like. Some people might have, one or two. I've talked with customers that have dozens. When you think about where all of your file data is located across your organization, it can start to get a little scary. And trying to maintain policies and procedures and consistent access controls around all of those and eliminate any shadow IT challenges that would exist in such a fragmented environment. So I'm seeing a lot of responses here. Very interesting. A solid percentage of you have around 5. Probably certainly the majority is over 6 and up into 10. Probably a good 50% of you are in the more than 10 area. So that's That's very interesting to see. So thank you very much for taking the time to do that. Gives us some good insights to where you are today. All right, so why do we care? Let's get right to it. So, one of the things that organizations are struggling with, and those of you that have many data silos and data file share environments are going to have this problem, is that you're dealing with some really common problems. You've got a lot of data to deal with. The growth is explosive. Data centers aren't cheap, right? They're complex, they're costly, and there's lots of infrastructure to manage. There's, you're dealing with an increasingly distributed workforce. So of course, you've got to manage those access control issues, and that may be some of the reasons that drive you to have different file shares, different regions, because you're copying data, moving it to different locations for easier access for individuals. And unfortunately, you've got to deal with aggressive security threats that are out there. So ransomware is a hot topic. You saw it mentioned in the opening demo video, and you're going to see it more in Ben's demo coming up. So we're all dealing with these issues. Especially if you're dealing with an on-premises environment. And so as you think about how you want to reduce and eliminate those struggles, hybrid cloud storage is an excellent alternative and an excellent way to eliminate those, but it has to do three things. And this is the intro to the three pillars that you have to be considering when you're thinking about moving your file data environment. The first is scalability. It has to be, we use the word effortless on purpose. It has to be simple, easy to expand. It should not mean jumping through hoops and adding more physical environment or having to set up entire new systems. You want it to be able to grow and very flexibly and deal with and have an unlimited scalability as well as being effortless. You've got to have built-in security. Security built into their file data system is quickly becoming a requirement. It used to be that was an envelope around the environment, or you had something sitting at the endpoint. That is going away in favor of what is being called cyber storage and the ability to quickly recover right within the file data system. We'll talk about that more. And last, of course, performance. A lot of organizations have hesitated in the past, like, I don't want to go to the cloud because there's latency and there's some bandwidth issues. That goes away in a hybrid cloud environment because you have fast edge performance everywhere. And we'll get into how that works here shortly. So a lot of organizations, real quickly, maybe some of you, when you first thought about going to the cloud, you said, hey, let's just take what we've got and we'll simply get ported to the cloud. So a lot of organizations did just that, like NetApp, even Azure Files, Windows file shares were simply ported to the cloud. And that was great because, well, hey, I'm using somebody else's servers. That helps a lot, right? But it didn't do anything to eliminate those problems we talked about. You're still just using basically a retrofit of your previous environment moved into the cloud. And so you had the same issues around scale and being able to support multiple regions. And you had the same issues around security. And the fragmentation had simply been moved. It hadn't been eliminated. And you still had to administer these separate environments, right? And then from an edge performance perspective, none of that was addressed. You still had your latency and bandwidth issues. You had issues with slow data sync and being able to access that. And so some people say, well, I went to the cloud. I moved to a system that was ported to the cloud in kind of a lift and shift model, and that really doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't really set you up. It doesn't at all set you up really for a scalability that you're going to need to grow. When you think about the rate of growth of file data, and Gartner says it's going to grow 3x in the next 5 years, and we have every reason to believe them. File data just continues to grow. And when you think about it from that perspective, you've got to set yourself up for success going forward and not have to deal with an ever-expanding plethora of different systems and different environments that you're trying to piece together. So the ideal scenario is that you've got unlimited scalability, leveraging the cloud. You've still got that local performance delivered at the edge, and you've got built-in security. And that's where a real hybrid cloud storage solution comes to play. So with that, I'm going to stop for a second. I'm going to pass it over to Ben, and he'll take you through the next slide.
Awesome. Thanks, Lance. So let's jump ahead here. So that's where we come to Nasuni. And with Nasuni, architecture really matters. Coming over for my own personal experience from an EMC background, I understand the technologies that go into play for creating a robust file environment. And what the cloud providers have given is a lift and shift of those legacy NAS systems to the cloud, as well as the associated backups, disaster recovery softwares, and replication technologies that are needed. And Nasuni really consolidates this all into one and pulls the best of both worlds when it comes to the economics and scalability of the cloud, as well as the security there, and the performance that we get from our on-premise solutions. With Nasuni and under the hood and how we provide what we say we do earlier is because we actually built a file system for object storage in the cloud. Now, this is a bring your own object storage, whether you guys are an Azure shop, an AWS shop, or a Google shop. We're agnostic as to the object store that Nasuni resides in. We just need an object store to point to. And that's what gives us the scalability, the immutability, which allows us to consolidate those backup solutions as well into one total solution here. The way that we immutably version all of the changes in the environment is what allows us for a robust ransomware defense, as well as consolidating your entire global file system into that one namespace into the cloud. Gives us rapid recovery. So we can recover petabytes of data. And because we're all consolidating that into object storage in the cloud, those recoveries of petabytes of scale can take under 30 seconds because all that data is there. We don't have to recover it from a rubric or a Commvault or a separate backup solution. There's no copying of the data that's needed to be done. And with all that in mind, those advantages that we get of having an object storage in a centralized global namespace, what we do with Nasuni is have a hub and spoke model where we have edge performance provided by these stateless edge cache VMs. We spin these VMs up in your data centers in local cloud regions that are close to your end users. And these edge cache VMs provide the same access patterns that your users are used to today via CIFS, NFS. These SMB protocols allow for no need for workflow changes or scripting changes for your applications. We inherit your Active Directory and your NTFS permissions. So the shift from your current NAS environment to the cloud to get those cloud benefits isn't as much of an overhead as it is in some of the more lift and shift models like a first-party solution within Azure or AWS. With that, I'll pass it back over to Lance for a few more slides, and we'll touch on a lot of these themes again in a brief demo after a few more.
All right, thanks, Ben. Appreciate it. Yeah, we talk about effortless scale. As Ben mentioned, the word unlimited and infinite is both those words are relevant here, right? Because you have a global namespace, there's an unlimited number of file shares that can be consolidated and brought into a single location. And the ability to store and manage any file type, there's no restrictions, right? And I think that's the one takeaway that I would leave you with is no restrictions, no limits. Not on files, not on directories, not on number of volumes, not on users, not on number of locations. You can use multiple clouds. I bet you some of you are wondering that right now. So there's the ability to manage that all in a single namespace is radically simplifies your administrative management duties and the number of resources involved there. And from a security perspective, as Ben mentioned, not having to deal with traditional backups for your file data is huge. I think you can all imagine the cost savings involved in that are significant. But because of the immutability and the use of object storage, as Ben mentioned, you've got a very quick disaster recovery, the ability to restore literally millions of files in a minute because you're not doing copies. Right, you're simply changing pointers to the previous version, and you're done. So it's very quick, which is a radical change from previous backup methods that you may be using today. So, and all of this in terms of integrating with your favorite SIEM or SOAR system from a security operations perspective, so that you know what's going on with using tools like Microsoft Sentinel, and taking advantage of inline ransomware detection that happens at the edge. Gives you that integrated file data security, and we'll showcase this a little bit more as we go into the actual demo. Finally, from a latency perspective and a performance perspective, it's more than just having caches at the edge and having file access locally. You're getting that LAN-like performance, even though your files are being stored in the gold copies, if you will, being stored in the cloud. But there's a lot of intelligent data orchestration and synchronization also happens, so that everybody stays in sync when they're using files. And one of the big draws for doing this is often large files. it may not be such a big deal if you're sharing a Word document, but if you're sharing CAD files or Adobe InDesign or anything of significance, now you've got issues where you really do need to keep all these different project teams in sync and have them accessing the latest and greatest version, but doing so in what appears as a local LAN-like interaction and experience. So very critical component to having that orchestrated and controlled so that the latest data is always available locally for the users. And that has huge ramifications for you're not going to the cloud for every time to pull files down. They're already there locally. So let me take you into one last poll here real quick. And a little tongue in cheek here, go with us here on this one. If you're planning on evaluating, we're looking to see if you're just in general looking to move your NAS or your file data storage to the cloud. If you've even been considering, I'm assuming that the reason you're here today is that you're at least considering it. But so we're curious if where your company is headed directionally, and regardless of whether or not you want to speak to us or not. And I see some of you do, but the ability to start taking advantage of some of these benefits and move off of your on-premises systems is generally of interest to many folks. All right, so looks like that's doing pretty well. There's a significant number of you are saying yes, and that's not surprising. Many organizations have cloud-first initiatives. They are looking to consolidate data centers, reduce their carbon footprint, any number of issues that are driving folks to take a fresh look at the cloud and get their file data in a new location and reduce the data center. So thank you for all of that. Appreciate it. With that, we're going to move on to the demo, and I'm going to pass things over to Ben.
Awesome. And I see some great questions in there. We'll address those right after the demo, but some great questions coming in the chat as well. I will share out this window now. So here is a Nasuni environment. This is our Nasuni management console, which we can manage limitless amounts of scale of your data, right? So whether we have 2 offices that need file access or 200 edge appliances across the globe that are all sharing a single global namespace, or whether we have 20 terabytes to 20 petabytes of data, we have customers across those entire ranges of data sets, all under a single pane of glass, a single management console, and eliminating all the associated backups of that data. This is our management console here. This is within my own demo environment, so obviously a much smaller namespace than what most of you guys are probably managing within your own environments. But we do get some nice visibility into what our unstructured data environment looks like. And as time rolls on, we're going to have even more data here, like analytics into how old our data is, what data is archival, what can we start moving off of our production NAS environment. Within volumes, we're going to see some cool features on what we've talked about on the versions of our file system. So with Nasuni, we start versioning our data from our edge appliances on a 5 to 15 minute basis across most of our customers. So what that means is that we have a new immutable version of just that change data that gets sent as a new object within the cloud. So if we go to my demo volume here that I created in, it looks, I think, February of this year, we're going to have versions of every 5 minutes of data that I've changed within the environment. And all of these are entire versions of the file system that we can roll back individual resources, entire directories, or entire volumes instantaneously. So the feature there is really powerful in terms of taking the granularity of entire days of, if we have our backups running on a daily basis or a weekly basis where we have those full backups, where ransomware can come in and create havoc of destroying an entire week's of productivity or a day of productivity, that's now eliminated with Nasuni. And the RTO time on the back end is much shorter as well. From an end user perspective, it looks and feels the same as a network drive in your current environment today. These are 2 edge appliances I have here in corporate and Scranton DR that are these stateless edge cache VMs that are running within one within GCP East and one within GCP West. Each one of these looks and feels the exact same. The same data, the same shares is shared to both, and depending on the user that is accessing this data, they get a different amount of visibility based on their NTFS permissions. So the DR process as well is easy. So this Scranton DR, the Scranton and Scranton DR were two different appliances that I failed over, and instantaneously, because these are stateless edge caches and all the data is protected in the cloud, if we do lose an edge appliance, we can point the users to another appliance or spin up a new appliance within the cloud and have instant access to our entire network file shares there. Now, the final piece that I want to show you guys from the demo is our ransomware protection. With Nasuni, you're always protected from ransomware because of the way that we immutably version those changes. Even if a ransomware attack was to infect your entire environment, we would just version those as new changes within the cloud. What our add-on service does is allows you to instantly detect those attacks, mitigate them by blocking the IP addresses, and give you a full report and a point-in-time click back to when those attacks happen. So here I have it enabled for my demo volume. And if I jump over to another jump box that I have into my GCP environment, I can look at just a CVs of a bunch of text documents and Word documents in another user's account. Now, if I go here, I have a quick Python script that simulates a deadbolt attack into this directory. So we click on temp CVs, throw in this directory, and start running this attack. We're going to see that these encryptions will start hitting. So we're going to see some deadbolt files start to populate within this directory. Once we hit about that 10 encryptions within a minute threshold, they're going to signal the kickoff of this IP address, and my end user, which in this case is my Michael Scott user, will no longer have access to the corporate file shares. With this in mind, his IP address is kicked off. He no longer has access to our edge appliance. So the damage is mitigated there. We're also going to have that restore piece. So if we go to the incident management, we're going to get a notification of an attack happening in our environment. We're going to have two different action items here. The first is a report of the ransomware attack that we blocked, what files were encrypted, where it was attacked, what IP address did the attacking, as well as our last known good state to roll back to prior to the attack. The other item we'll have is a targeted restore where we can type in the pattern or it will know the encryption pattern that caused the attack. We can delete those ransomware files or we can keep them for investigative purposes, but I want to keep my demo environment clean. And we can also back up the existing files to another folder and choose the location that we want it to actually be restored to, and just restore those individual resources that were affected to the prior point in time before the ransomware attack. And again, because this is just a pointer within the object store, these restores are instantaneous. So whereas pulling data back from a rubric or a Commvault can take hours to days to bring your entire file system back up and running, with Nasuni, it's instantaneous, and that restore was, as you can see, completed within a few seconds. If we go to that same scripts here within our edge appliance, we'll see that those deadbolt files are no longer populated. And we can go into our end user here where we have a block client that will show up shortly and unblock our end user, Michael Scott, if it was just him clicking on a phishing link. So instantaneously, we're back up and running. With Nasuni, no customer has ever paid a ransom to gain access to their file data because of the way that we version the changes in our environment. So I'll pass it back over to Lance, but I see some great questions populating here in the chat. I can also go into a deeper demo in the breakout room if you guys are curious and want to see any features and functionalities outside of the brief overview that I showed you today. But thank you.
All right, thank you, Ben. That's great. Yeah, there's lots of good questions, and understandably so, right? So before we move into our breakout room and kind of dive into that in more detail, I'll just mention a couple things really quickly here, right? So, the ramifications, the business impact that a hybrid cloud storage solution like Nasuni can have on your business is significant. I won't read all these, but these are details from a variety of customers that have measured the metrics and measured their gains since moving to Nasuni. And you can see they fall into some major buckets around cost, around security, around speed of collaboration, as I mentioned with the edge devices, and just the overall impact on the business. They're significant. You can definitely see how your return on investment is quickly realized when you move to a hybrid cloud storage solution like this. So, Ben mentioned the, migrating to Nasuni and moving your data in, and for organizations of varying sizes, there's certainly, it can be a very great amount of data to move, right? We've worked with organizations that have hundreds and hundreds of terabytes, even petabytes of data that they moved from a variety of different systems into Nasuni. And the whole process is extremely smooth and seamless. There's in terms of your cutover process, it's very quick. We do parallel transfers because most organizations, like many of you, early on that poll pointed out that you've got lots of different file data shares, lots of different data silos. You can have those all brought in at once. And of course, there's never any data loss or business interruption. You can simply, flip a switch. And in fact, we've had multiple users say, my boss asked me when we were going to switch over to Nasuni, and I had to tell him we already did. You don't notice, right? Because as Ben pointed out, your map drives stay the same. All your systems look and feel, the experience for the end user stays the same. And so there's really no interruption in your usage or business applications. So I'll leave you with just a passing quote here, right? Julia Palmer over at Gartner. Those of you that are maybe Gartner customers can reach out to her and engage with her, look at some of her research if you're a Gartner research customer. Her quote earlier this year was that this is the modern era when the data center is no longer the center of data. People are moving out of data centers, moving to the cloud, consolidating wherever they can for all the impact reasons I just showed you. And there's a great series of benefits that come with doing so. So certainly encourage those of you that maybe have not thought about this before to at least look into it and consider the ramifications for your organization. And with that, certainly I'll go ahead and wrap up. As we mentioned, Nasuni was built from the ground up. It's not a lift and shift. It was built for hybrid cloud storage. It was built for cloud native operations. And certainly, I believe, warrants your time when you're thinking about scalability, security, and edge performance for access to your important file data. All right, Scott, I think I'm passing it back to you, right?
Yep. Yeah. Great presentation, great demo. And we do have a lot of questions here from the audience. First one I want to ask you guys comes from Brandon, who's asking, how does Nasuni compare to traditional backup solutions in terms of cost, performance, and reliability?
That's a big question. It probably warrants an entire session on its own. Ben, do you have any thoughts on that, or what do you think?
Yep. Sorry, I couldn't find the unmute button there. But it generically is about a one-to-one cost with a backup solution, right? So we, in terms of price per terabyte, we're a per terabyte license. We correlate pretty one-to-one with about like a Rubrik license or a Commvault license, right? In the terabyte cost there. But that doesn't include the primary file shares, the multi-site collaboration, those other pieces of your primary production NAS system that we can provide an advantage as well. So usually when it looks at all the types of solutions that our customers have in terms of what they need to have a fully resilient file system that they can collaborate with and use for production, we usually see about a 40 to 60% savings for our customers and their unstructured data.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Next one here is a question. Sensitive data within my organization needs to adhere to data sovereignty requirements in certain regions. How does a single global namespace provide for that?
Absolutely. And that one's a great question as well. So we have lots of customers who are global entities, and there's a lot of countries that have their own requirements when it comes to where their data resides and where their data can be accessed from. And with Nasuni, just because we're one global namespace does not mean that the data has to all reside within one location. So while we can all manage it from that management console that I touched on previously, the data can actually reside in buckets all over the globe. So say we have a company within, or a subsidiary within Germany that can only have their data accessed by people in Germany, for example, we can have a Azure bucket within Frankfurt and only present that data and that volume to edge appliances that are living within Germany, but still manage it from our central pane of glass. So the data can only be accessed there, but we can still manage those updates and recover in the event of an attack from the same pane of glass.
Okay. And we probably got time for one more, and then you guys can grab other ones over in the Zoom breakout. But this one's coming from Peter, who's asking. It sounds as though you're able to offer more capabilities in terms of file folder access and visibility than is possible with straight shared file systems. Is that the case?
Absolutely. That's a great question, Peter. So, with Nasuni, we have a couple offerings that differentiate us from a traditional NAS. One of those is the ability of a global locking namespace. So, with Nasuni, between all of our edge appliances, if we have certain workloads that versioning is important, we can make sure that those versions remain consistent across those different appliances. So, we have a global locking feature that provides that collaboration. The second piece is from an add-on service that we have called Access Anywhere, which is a bit like a OneDrive or a Dropbox, but with access to your corporate file shares. So one thing that I didn't touch on with Nasuni was that while we version every change to the cloud, we also audit every change that happens to the file system, which touches to what Lance was talking about on plugging into your SIMs or your SOAR tools, that we can add some value there as well. But with that comes the ability to, with our Access Anywhere product, have that OneDrive or box that is the same corporate file shared data that we can present out VPN-lessly to our end users. But we can also audit all of those changes and version all of those changes so that the data isn't unprotected or in a separate silo of our IT environment that we have to manage outside of our corporate file shares.
Okay. All right. Well, Ben and Lance, we've probably got to let you guys jump over into the Zoom breakout room to get ready for everybody to join you. But before you go over, Lance Shaw, if somebody wants to get started with Nasuni or find out more, what do you recommend?
Well, of course, you can post a comment here, but you can obviously visit nasuni.com. There's a number of different ways you can request for more information. We have some great handouts here available to you, but there's an exponential list of additional supporting assets and information that you can access at nasuni.com. And of course, you can request a demo and dive into all the details that you want to look at and that are relevant for your particular situation.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. We really appreciate your time so far, and I know people are looking forward to joining you for follow up in the Zoom room. So we'll let you head over there.
All right, great. We'll see everybody there.
Okay, and by the way, there were more questions that we could get to here in the Q&A. So Lance and Ben are taking those questions with them into the Zoom breakout. So feel free to follow over there to get your questions answered if we didn't get to it here in the Q&A. And finally, it is time for the Amazon gift card prize drawing. I'm just waiting for a second for that slide to come up. Okay. And the winner of the $250 Amazon gift card today is Eric Shimmick from Wyoming. So congratulations to Eric. We'll be in touch to get you your card. And with that, on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to thank Nasuni for making this event possible. And thanks for attending and for your great questions. And in a second here, I'm just going to pop up the link again so you can click directly to head over to the Zoom breakout room. Thanks, everybody.